So I really miss the days when I just didn't know who Matt Walsh was. This video doesn't get a dog bless because even dog has forsaken us. We're gonna go over some pretty heavy stuff today, so just keep that in mind before moving forward. Because this is all truly wild and somehow shocking without being the least bit surprising. Matt Walsh has started a fake organization as a front for a fake documentary with the purpose of getting trans people to sign their life stories and insights away specifically so that they can be twisted to feed his agenda. Researcher and trans activist Eli Ehrlich was recently contacted by the so-called Gender Unity Project and shared her experience in a Twitter thread you can find linked in the description, but I'll go over some of the key points now. Eli was contacted by someone going by the name of McKenna Lynn, who after some well-aimed digging was revealed to be McKenna Waters, the producer of the Matt Walsh Show. Further investigation revealed that the Gender Unity Project is registered to far-right documentarian Prager Upon and Matt Walsh underling Justin Folk. So, as already mentioned, Matt Walsh and his sycophants created a fake outreach organization and fake documentary for the purpose of tricking trans people into lending their voices to an anti-transgender propaganda piece. And yet they have the audacity to claim that we're the ones lying and manipulating people. This is completely despicable behavior, and I shouldn't have to explain why. These people are so unbelievably obsessed with us, it's incredibly creepy. Also, it kind of reveals the fact that they don't have a leg to stand on where their criticisms of trans people are concerned. Walsh literally described his efforts as an all-out assault, and revealed the fact that he is perfectly fine using lies and manipulation within those efforts, because the information he wants doesn't actually exist. So I guess he's just gonna try and find a way to create it. But it all gets so much darker than this. I sincerely worry about Matt Walsh's kids. I can't imagine what it's like having a father who's so vile, hateful, and fixated on hurting people and spreading ignorance. I just really hope that none of his kids turn out to be queer, or at the very least have good found family that they can turn to in the event that they are. But on that note, let's get to the crux of the issue here. Matt Walsh is obsessed with trans people, and it's f***ing weird. We're talking obsessed to the level of moral bankruptcy, because the things he's willing to breeze past for the purpose of stopping us from existing are truly astounding. Matthew, I say this with the utmost sincerity, go to therapy, or maybe find a hobby that's not speculating about other people's genitals. It's completely bizarre to be this fixated on a community you're not even part of, and the lengths you'll apparently go to reek of insecurity. We don't even like you as a friend. Please go get help. Please put some distance between you and the rest of us. It's getting, this is a bit much. Like, you do realize that nobody actually believes you when you pull this kind of shit, right?
There's biological sex, and then there is gender identity. Part of me wants to ask why you care so much, because it's really not that big of a deal.
Can I answer that? I'd love to answer that question. I care about the truth. So basic truth matters. I want to live in a society where people care about the truth and we're grounded in truth. I care about children. And these insane ideas about gender are being foisted on kids, and that bothers me quite a bit.
Oh, right, of course, because you care about the truth. I cannot fathom being so threatened by a group of people just trying to live their lives that you'd write a children's book to indoctrinate kids into thinking another group of people is trying to indoctrinate kids simply by existing. But you're a practicing Catholic, so I guess indoctrination is the only language that you actually speak. Which is probably why you can't wrap your mind around other people simply trying to live their lives without some underlying agenda of mind control. So you've told yourself it's about the truth to avoid the ugly reality of your own obsession. Because nobody clings this hard without some underlying issue, my guy, and if you think that nobody else sees it, you're sorely mistaken. Like, the only person that you're fooling at this point is yourself. If you cared about the truth, you'd address the facts that multiple trans people have presented you with several times over already, but you never do. It's a pretty convenient catch-all to just be like, no, this is gender ideology. Every medical organization has been brainwashed, rather than take 2 seconds to ask yourself, what if I'm the one who's wrong? So much for that Christian humility. But on that topic, gonna drop a big content warning for this next part regarding the things I have listed on the screen. Please do not continue watching from this point if these topics are triggering for you. This vicious anti-trans agenda pushing the narrative that trans people are a danger to kids is coming from a guy who sincerely believes this. He even has the nerve to frame it as the best thing for the child. But no, don't be mistaken, he's all about protecting kids. This coming from a guy who has gone off in defense of his palace of predators by saying it has nothing to do with the ring of abusers long protected by the reach and financial power of the Catholic Church. No, it's the gays.
And as I want to try to elaborate on this argument, if you didn't read the piece, or even if you did, the point that I was trying to make is that the sex abuse scandal in the church is not a pedophilia scandal. Okay, the problem isn't pedophilia. Unlike what we're told and what you hear in the media about all the so-called pedophile priests and so on, the problem is not pedophilia. The problem is gay priests in the church. And then on top of that, of course, every single perpetrator was male, obviously. So what does that tell us? That tells us that what happened in the church, and it may still be happening to some extent, is an epidemic of gay men assaulting mostly teenage boys. Am I saying that by getting rid of the homosexuals in the priesthood, we could all but solve the problem of sexual assault in the church? Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. And 80% of the victims are males. 100% of the perpetrators are males. So if there were no homosexual priests, then those victims who were males would not have been victimized. Obviously.
Okay, Matthew. Okay. This isn't the slam dunk that you think it is because you're still an active member of this organization. So whether it's a problem specifically of predatory priests or the gays is kind of a moot point. You're still part of it, you're still making excuses, and you're still using the abuse of children as a tool in your agenda rather than a call to action to actually help those kids. If you really cared about children, you would leave this organization in protest, and honestly, I'm sure God would understand given the circumstances. But apparently, what's really driving a wedge between you and the church you're a member of is that they won't pay you to be a speaker for them, or at the very least platform you. Apparently, that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. But regardless, your brain still works in such a way that you regard the abuse of thousands of kids as an opportunity to attack gay people. That's the kind of person you are. Routine abuse of children, rather than being motivation to stop the people who are hurting them, is to you another piece in your political agenda. But let's pretend for a moment that your argument holds any water whatsoever. It doesn't. Attraction to children or teens and attraction to adults are two completely different things, but for the sake of argument, let's just pretend that you're onto something here. What about the other 20%, Matthew? Did you maybe consider for a moment that these patterns have more to do with sex-based division in Catholic institutions? That for these men you continue to throw money at, it's more a matter of the spaces that they have access to? And if 80% of these cases are reason for you to continue defending the Catholic Church, what are the other 20%? It's wild to me how flexible the truth is for you. You seem very adept at picking and choosing the pieces of information that you would like to include. And someone who sincerely cares about exposing the truth and protecting innocent people doesn't do that. I guess we're just going to forget the fact that the Magdalene Laundries ever existed and provided multiple locations specifically dedicated to the abuse of girls and women by the Catholic Church. Let's keep in mind the last of which, Our Lady of Charity, only closed down in 1996. Survivors of the Laundries are still alive to this day and have bravely come forward to discuss the sexual, physical, and psychological abuse that they endured at the hands of heterosexual priests, so it's odd that you haven't brought any of this up in your crusade. After all, this information is readily available. There's a Wikipedia page on it and everything. So where was the inclusion of this reality in your tirade against the dangers of gay priests? The fact that in your mind, the abuse of more girls and women is required for you to take an issue seriously is just more evidence of the fact that you don't actually care about the people who are being hurt. Almost like you don't actually give a shit about protecting children and vulnerable people. Almost like you need to convince everyone that some alternative mass cover-up is at play so that they don't pay mind to the one that you actively choose to be part of. Almost like you're some hateful, violent, insecure monster of a man who is making up fake battles to pull people's attention away lest they look behind the veil and see the brutality that you are bootlicking. You apparently have the capacity to create a fake organization with the purpose of exposing trans people, or, gathering footage to doctor with the aim of bolstering your concocted story because you sincerely care that much about kids, but simply not supporting an institution with an openly documented history of child abuse? That's just too much. You don't care about kids. You just hate queer people. Which begs the question, why are you so scared of us, Matthew? Why are you so deeply fixated? I ask this like you're not a totally lost cause already. Normally I try to communicate with people, but you need real help deconditioning your hatred and unlocking the real cause behind your disdain for trans people that I simply can't provide for you. I just hope you seek out someone who can. However, to any followers of this guy, no amount of telling yourself that it's about protecting kids is going to make that true. And if you're continuing to support him in light of everything I've discussed here, you really need to sit down and have a serious conversation with yourself about what you really believe in and where your motives really lie. I'm not Christian myself, but everything I've learned about Jesus says that he probably wouldn't be very down with using hate as a motivator at any point. It's time to step up and acknowledge that if you sincerely espouse the morals that you claim you do. The queer community at worst just gives your kids the support and acceptance that you fail to deliver when they come forward about who they really are. arguably about how God made them. Maybe instead of asking yourself why they join us, you could ask why they feel driven away from you. But stepping away from the faith angle for a moment, we're not the ones supporting and enabling an institution of known abusers. The hypocrisy is truly astonishing. You know what? Hate us all you want, but stop using the suffering of children as a justification tool in doing so, especially when it's clear that you don't actually care about them, because these atrocities wouldn't persist to this day if you did.